Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have someone who is the president and CEO of Wedgwood Circle. He's also the author of the book, Honest Creativity, the foundation of boundless, good, and inspired innovation. Craig Detweiler, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you, Dave. Thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to have you here, Craig. Did I pronounce that right? Detweiler?
You did. Detweiler, yes.
Detweiler, okay.
It's obscure. I think the only famous Detweiler was in The Sound of Music.
Right.
Uncle Max, who helped spirit away the Von Trapp family from the Nazis.
Right.
Detweiler. So
sadly, the Mary Poppins in there, Julie Andrews, I think she passed away this year, didn't she? I think it was.
It was sad. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm happy to come from a family of Nazi fighters. I'll just say that.
No, don't say that.
No, it's true.
Yeah, I know. Oh, Nazi fighters. Oh, that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a real big thing there when I was growing up. Obviously, World War II was still kind of live and kicking in terms of talking about it. You know, so even in the 70s when I was growing up as a little boy, you know. So. Anyway, let's get on with what you've written this book called The Honest Creativity, or Honest Creativity, I should say. What inspired you to write this book? I mean, you're a CEO of Wedgwood Circle. It's an investment. It's an investment and funding company. So.
Yeah. Well, I really work in the realm of creativity.
Right.
Whether that's writing my own screenplays, books, or coaching others. So sometimes that is as a professor.
Yes.
I'm a professor and have taught hundreds of filmmakers over the years who've gone on to do different kinds of things, whether that's making big things with Marvel like Shang-Chi, or could also be, running film schools in South African townships. So I'm very proud of my students. Yeah. And I think that the rise of AI has created a lot of anxiety within the creative community.
Oh, is it really? What you mean in terms of not jobs being taken over, or
right? Will I be replaced? That type of thing.
Will I be
exactly.
Replaced?
Yeah. And so even with my work with Wedgwood Circle, we're investing in people maybe at the beginning of their career. They're musicians, they're playwrights. And there's all these new apps, of course, which in theory can generate a screenplay in seconds, or can, create a song based on your requests.
Yeah.
Which can be very freeing for creatives who want to try things out. Yeah. But it can also be debilitating and cause you to kind of shut down in fear and say, well, why should I practice, my piano scales if a machine is just going to be able to, snap out a symphony in seconds.
Yeah,
right?
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
And so the book is written to kind of get us back to our core as creatives, right? People created to create. And try to say to fear not. Everything doesn't have to end like the Terminator. Where AI is coming to get us, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was a machine, wasn't it? It was a machine destroying everything and anything.
Exactly. So the movies have made us, I think, fearful. Of AI, and it's good to have cautionary tales, but I'm offering a different kind of tale that says lean into our humanity, and that will be what distinguishes us.
That's a fantastic introduction into how the book evolved, and it does make sense now in terms of honest and things like. Because some people want to be authentic. It's like, yeah, well, it's all right. I use ChatGPT, but I still have to use my own authentic personalization in it. Do you see what I mean? It's not.
That's right.
Movies will probably never be the same, but you still want to really see the real actors and a real thing. You don't want to see. Otherwise, it's animation, isn't it?
That's right. Animation. And I think we do still pick up the subtle differences, right? So a film like Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan tries to resist the temptation to do visual effects. His visual effects, if they're going to do an explosion, they're going to try to probably start with real fire, real flames, and say, okay, how can we approximate this to look like the horrors of the bomb that was dropped in Japan. They're going to try to not fake it, right? They're going to try to make it more real, grounded in the real world, because I think people notice that uncanny valley, right? That sometimes the 3D animation that's generated by a machine, doesn't quite approximate human emotion, human feelings. The greatest special effect, I believe David Thompson, the British film critic, said the greatest special effect remains a close-up on the human face. And so how do we lean into that?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It's definitely all well, good and bad going on. I mean, deep fake is something that's scary at the moment. In
our political disinformation age, the ability to discern what's real from what's fake, what's human from what's been generated, will become a very important part of people. Whether you're trying to resist a scam that's being perpetuated, for financial means, or whether it's a political scam, which is also usually for financial means.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is going on. Well, that leads us on to the fact that why you did write this book, the honest creativity, because that is basically what we're talking about now. Is the opposite. What your book's talking about, the opposite of doing that, isn't it? Really. So let's take a deep dive into that. I've got the contents in front of me, so we could just basically just run through the contents, and you could just talk about it, or you could just give us an overview of it.
Sure. Well, the book is divided up into 3 sections.
Yeah.
And the first section, I think most creativity, it starts with us.
Yeah.
And I actually start with our honest fears.
Yeah.
Our honest limitations.
That's right.
The ways
aspirations.
the things that we don't have.
Yeah.
Maybe. And things that cause us to self-sabotage and say, oh, I shouldn't try, or nobody's going to pay attention, or why bother. And trying to turn those from fears, honest fears, into honest strengths.
Right.
You see, speaking to you, talking about honest limitations, I'm thinking about the Great British Bake Off. Is a show that starts with limitations. It immediately says, hey, you can only play within this realm. These are your ingredients. This is how much time you have. Now, how creative can you be within the limits that's been placed upon you? And really, I think that's the beginning point for all of us. If you think about it as kids, right? We make up all these crazy games in our head with these characters. And sometimes, it's like we've got a shoebox and, a cantaloupe, and we're going to turn that into like a spaceship and a foreign country or a different planet. So our imagination often runs wild when we're a kid, but then when we're confronted with it as adults, we start to shut down before we even start.
Yeah.
And so that Great British Bake Off, it's like, hey, I might want to bring other things to the table, but I don't have enough time to do that. So now being realistic about the limits that I have, what kind of tasty concoction can I create? And I think that's the challenge that all of us face from wherever we begin our creative journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, that's the people, and then part 2 is the process. So what's that?
Well,
really go
having
into.
gotten over your own self-sabotage, our own fears, how do we, in a sense, both perceive and receive what the world may have to offer us? I think it's a process of practicing enough, going through the process enough, putting in enough hours where we have enough artistry behind us, whether that's, playing a violin or learning how to draw. And then in that process, there's both perceiving what's going on in the world, right? Like, what are the issues? What are the pain points? If I'm feeling this, what is other people feeling? I think one of the great things of, film, that Roger Ebert called film one of the great empathy machines. And so how do we build empathy with an audience? How do we build connection points like you do here, right? You as a firefighter who've saved lives and overcome your own fears to run into burning buildings, right?
Yeah, when everyone's running out.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you have to train your brain to say, I'm gonna press into that fear.
Yeah.
And then that other process is, I think, also, it's not just perceiving what's going on, but also receiving. When artists talk about the creative work, they'll just say, oh, this idea came to me, or this song came to me. I wrote it down in 5 minutes. I wasn't really sure where it came from. So there's this idea that there is something beyond us that prompts us and inspires us and accompanies us. Inspiration, that word itself, right, is sort of implying a spirit that comes into us, and that creative spirit, different people, the Greeks called it the muse, other people may call it, the spirit of creativity, or a godlike, presence. But there's this notion in many cases that we become a conduit. It's not necessarily me. It's a part of me. I've practiced, I've done my work, but then I'm open to kind of receiving, right? So it's there's these hands up kind of approach of just saying, I don't know, I need something, I need an idea. And when people get desperate is often when those great ideas arise.
Yeah, not quite like a wide receiver.
No. Well, it can be. It can be, right? Because it's very hard to play catch, by yourself.
I know, that's right. Yeah,
on the field, So, can you receive what's being passed on?
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of preparation behind that, wouldn't there? Really, and creativity as well. Actually, to be honest, so,
that's right. That's right.
Creating some.
And that's can also be a stage of where there's a lot of collaboration.
Teamwork.
Yeah, well, and you think even about some of the great songwriting duos, whether that's Lennon and McCartney or Jagger and Richards. I don't think anybody expected Mick Jagger and Keith Richards to still be writing. I think what was it, 62 or something was when the Stones first records were made, and they just released a new album this year.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, no, they're about to launch a new tour.
All right.
And that's a full 60 some years after they began.
These days,
so that's a lot of collaboration and creativity.
These days, rock stars and pop stars, they just do it until they die on stage now, don't they? Really, these days, literally.
It is true that they can't resist one more, right? One more victory tour, or, the reunion tour.
One of my favorites, James Brown. It happened to him. A couple of others, but yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's just the way.
I think the rock band Kiss did a goodbye tour maybe 7 different times, right? Oh, this is the last time. I promise this is the last time. Elton John's been on his final tour.
Yeah, that's right.
For hundreds of years. But you think about Elton John with Bernie Taupin.
Yeah.
Elton was a great piano player, but he didn't have the words. Yeah. Bernie had the words.
Right.
So that process of saying, hey, I'm good at melody, but I may need somebody else to do the poetry side of it.
Let's hope
that the way they complement each other.
Let's hope AI don't take over with that then. Really.
Yeah, well, what AI can do, I think, is imitate well. It can approximate well. It can take prompts based on what's already been created.
Yeah.
But as far as creating something new, right? Somebody telling us something about love that we maybe haven't heard before.
Exactly.
Something about heartbreak. It doesn't have the life experience to draw upon.
No, that's right. No.
Yeah.
No, there's no emotions there, and that's the key thing about it, isn't it? Really.
And that's why I call it honest creativity rooted in our humanity, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
AI, I think will never surpass what I would call HI, right? Human
yeah,
imagination, human ingenuity, that human spark
yeah,
that takes us to places we haven't been, and
yeah,
even prompts AI to imagine a different kind of song or a different kind of mashup that we haven't
yeah.
heard before.
And then, of course, it never will take over any kind of live performance of it in any kind of creative industry or any industry in general, would it? Really? So,
No, and I
yeah.
actually think that in a sense, live theater is perhaps poised for even a better comeback.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
The things that are done with our body, dancers, I think
yeah,
will be perhaps in more demand because
yeah.
AI will never. It could approximate a dance, but I don't want to see a dancing robot. I want to see someone who has physical limitations just like I do and see what can they do with their body. How
Yeah,
can they
exactly.
manipulate space and time? And so I think dance, theater, live music, all of that live
Yeah.
production. Obviously, I think sports is a form
It'll be
of
more.
honest creativity. That will be
Yes,
all be more in demand
you're more
in
in
the age
demand
of AI.
because exactly. So and people want to see the real thing, don't they? Really, at the end of the day. So
Yeah, yeah, and we marvel at it, right? But when we
yeah, yeah,
know, gosh, despite the limitations of our body, look at what they've done through practice. Look at their ability to dunk the basketball. LeBron James still playing at a championships level,
yeah,
on
yeah,
into his 40s. We just marvel and say that's incredible.
yeah. That's the difference between watching a travel program or watching a wildlife program on TV and then actually going and seeing a real thing,
That's true,
traveling and
right?
seeing a real animal or seeing going in a safari somewhere in Africa. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's definitely, you can't replace it, really.
No, and I appreciate the efforts by the technologists.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the Apple Vision Pro, is trying to give you kind of a wraparound experience. But
Well,
it's not going to be the same.
yeah, well,
It's
it's
not
like
going to be the
VR,
same.
isn't it, really? So that's
Mhm.
probably as close as you can never get it, really. But that's just the way it is. I think we went to Sea Life, the family of my, and they had I think it was in Bangkok actually. They got a Sea Life there. I don't know if you got Sea Life, but we got one in London. And then
Mhm.
so it's basically all sea, and you go in a kind of either a submarine or a boat, and you see the sharks swimming and things like. But
Mhm.
before that, they had a kind of 3D. Well, it's like a VR glasses, and the seats move, in cinema,
Mhm.
and they just sort of gave a little movie of the kind of things you're going to see in
Yeah.
the sea life, really, which is quite. It's funny actually. It was right in your face and gave you a kind of real adrenaline fueled thing before you actually went on the tour around, really. So
Yeah.
it's a
And
good
it can
mix.
do that, right? It
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
still, through our optic nerve, it still can kind of send a charge, through
yeah,
our body as it approximates what it might be like to be under the water. But there's nothing about that will match the physical whole body approximation. I can remember being with my kids in Hawaii on the Big Island when they were very small, and we took them down to this cove. We heard it was a great place to snorkel and kind of quiet and secluded. And we get down there, and it was like an old fishery, an old historic area, and there were turtles,
yeah,
right? Green sea turtles that were
yeah, yeah.
just like playing around out there. And so for
But
my
massive
kids to be
ones,
in the water,
big
yeah,
ones. Yeah,
big
yeah,
green sea turtles, and to be
yeah,
in there when they're like 5 years old and literally
yeah.
be under the water swimming with sea turtles. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
You
It's
can't
like
beat that.
swimming with the dolphins. People get just really,
Yeah.
fascinated with all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And the physicalness of even like the sea salt air that you can smell and the
Yeah,
feeling
exactly.
on your skin when you get out of that
That's
water
it.
and
Exactly. Yeah. So,
yeah. So
well, that's the process done, and I mean, yeah, exactly. We kind of covered the difference in preparation and
mhm,
perception as well, because it's a perception
mhm,
thing, isn't it? And compared
mhm,
to the reality of being there, and things like
mhm.
that. So yeah, no, that covered that process bit. I think with that conversation we had there. So let's move on to products then.
Yeah, well, this is where the third part of the pro of after the process, once you have something, now what do you do with it? And I think this is where a lot of creatives struggle, whether you're a creative entrepreneur, a business person trying to launch a new product, a new line, or whether you're a creative. It can be daunting when you have a new song, you put it on Spotify and you realize, well, there were 100,000 other new songs that were posted today. And you're up against, Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Like, what kind of honest marketing can I do that can cut through the clutter? There's a lot of hype. Everybody's, always hyping up their stuff. And I'm trying to suggest that perhaps a slower, more organic approach would work. You think of somebody like Hozier, who's hitting the charts. He's not doing anything fancy, right? It's basic singer-songwriter type of thing. Ed Sheeran, another, Hozier being an Irish artist, Ed Sheeran on the British side. Ed Sheeran, not a great looking guy, frankly. It's just very average. Can't be more average. But he somehow
it's very geeky looking, isn't he, for a rock star?
That's what I'm saying.
He probably in another life he probably.
I would be encouraged if I was a singer-songwriter to say, you know what, I think I can approximate what Ed's doing. I can look as good and maybe but somehow the earnestness of that, the honesty that he brings to his storytelling. Again, it kind of cuts through the clutter. You've got other people doing a big show and a big song and dance and 18 dancers. And he's like, it's just me and the guitar.
Exactly.
And somehow the simplicity of that, I think, can cut through it.
And actually being an ordinary guy, even with he collaborates with people on stage and things like that, even if he does a cover, he's just very ordinary with it, isn't he, really? So authentic.
And that honesty, that genuineness, I think, in a world of hype and kind of overselling, I think makes a big difference. So one way is to go with honest marketing of who you are and try to become closer to what is my real voice. The other thing is you might need help and you might need folks who are good at things you're bad at. So that can be collaborators, but those collaborators may take the form of producers, editors, agents, managers, lawyers. I'm sure Ed's legal team is massive, right? Trying to arrange all of those concerts, all of those mashups that he's doing with other artists, right? Somebody has to hammer out those details. He can make a call and say, hey, do you want to be on my new album? But somebody else has to figure out all the legal and all the logistics around that. And so understanding what you're good at and understanding where your limitations are, I think, is also part of it. And there's a reason why, a record producer like Rick Rubin is paid big money, he's worth it, the things that he brings to the table, his in a sense, his golden ears that may give you some ideas about what to do. So, so anyway, so that's the process of also finding like honest partners, honest collaborators, honest people who fill in our gaps and our limitations.
Absolutely. No, that's that all makes sense and fits in quite well in the process. I can't see any AI kind of issues around the products bit though, really. Well, I suppose you could use AI for marketing, couldn't you, really? I suppose, but
I think many people will and do. I mean, you can use AI to both write the copy as well as make the pictures, make the images. But again, our human detection, we've been trying to discern what's fake from what's real for many hundreds of years. And so I think, to lean on the authentic, to lean on the honest will move us forward in the best way possible.
Well, that leads us on to the final bit of the book, which is obviously my area of favorite area of resilience building, and obviously coming from that background, obviously you need resilience of a firefighter. I should say.
Yes.
Sorry for putting that little pun in there.
Not absolutely no,
not intended.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
So let's take us through the honest resilience of it to conclude.
Well, I think what's hard is we have these hopes for an album, or we have hopes for a product that it's going to, go big, it's going to go wide, our life's going to change, we're going to be at the top of the charts. And it doesn't always work out that way. I had a film that I worked on for, 2 years. It came out, hit theaters 2 weeks after 9/11. And so at a moment when the world is in a panic, the world's in fear, nobody knows what's safe. We're like, hey, come to the theater, come see our movie. Well, terrible timing. There was no way that movie called Extreme Days was gonna cut through people's fears and get them back to the theater. And so I had to deal with that disappointment, all of that letdown due to like luck and timing and really very, very serious global events that cost firefighters, their lives, that people sacrificed and died for. And so I had to build resilience into my body, into my brain to say, okay, well, that was a failure. That didn't go the way that I hoped. We made a good film. It's very funny. The 12 people who saw it all loved it. But it was, but it just, the timing wasn't there. And so,
but you weren't to know, was you really? So
and so you have to get up off the mat a bit and do it again. And I'm sure as a firefighter, someone saving lives, it's like, I don't really want to go into that burning building. I know how dangerous it can be, but you train your body to say, I'm going to do this again, right? You train your mind to say, I'm going to press on, despite the circumstances of what happened last time.
That's exactly what it is. It's repetitive training over and over again, and scenarios and what ifs, and things like that. So it's all training, and that's basically.
Yeah. And what I've found is those who kind of find that extra gear, who dig deeper, kind of one more time, it's often that one more time that makes the difference. There's a filmmaker named Lee Isaac Chung who had made some films that had gotten critical notice, and people say, yeah, there's he's definitely got something here. But he was feeling like it was time to give up. He wasn't making the money that he needed to. He's trying to support a family. And his wife was like, you know what, just do one more film about your family, about your upbringing as a Korean immigrant. Your father came over to the States to be a farmer. And he turned that film into a little bitty film called Minari, which cost like around $1 million.
That's a lot, huh?
And yet, which is a lot, But that film then, I think, made around $20 million for A24.
Well, that's a good investment.
They got 6 Oscar nominations out of it. And including an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And now he's gone on and he's directed episodes of The Mandalorian. He's working on Steven Spielberg's reboot of the Twister franchise, which will come out this summer. And it just kind of shows that at those moments when we're almost ready to give up, it's like dig a little deeper, lean even more into your fear, your disappointment, all those things that can cripple us, and instead say, no, it's going to be the source of my strength. And that resilience, I think, is what separates the aspiring, right, from the successful. Both, whether that's obviously in firefighting, where you have to overcome those fears, or in the creative realm.
Well, that was one big risk, and entrepreneurs do take risks, don't they, really? And filmmakers are entrepreneurs, aren't they? So most people in the creative industries are really, that's why it's called the music business or the film business, so.
That's it. Because every time you're launching a new product. And so finding those people who can fill in the gaps for you on how to launch a product, who might understand how to get things to the market, how to help you brand yourself, position yourself, distinguish yourself. All those things, I think, become sources of how to press on.
Yeah, well, fantastic, Craig. It's been a really great conversation with you today. I wasn't sure how I was going to go into this book. I saw the book and I wasn't really, but no, I mean, obviously, and you're very good, entertaining speaker. So, I mean, I'm sure speaking must be one of your well-paid professions as well.
Oh, thank you.
It's very colorful.
Well, I just
animated
I've found that people just need a lot of encouragement. We have these notions within us, these ideas that we need to get out, need to find points of expression. We want to connect with other people. Even like this podcast, right? Like you took the risk of saying, I'm going to create a podcast.
Well,
not sure who's going to listen, who's going to tune in. And then you just kept at it, right? And you played honest resistance.
Well, I get discovered these days now, so that's the good thing about it, is that, some people don't get past 4 episodes and then they give up. It's just like that, really. So
that's it. So that resilience you've displayed, right, has paid off.
It's in the same kind of realm as it was, which is why it's in Spotify, Apple. It's the same area as music and films, really. You're making something and creating something, aren't you, really? So
that's right.
It's audio, though. Well, it can be video as well, actually. So this will be both, but I mean,
all right, that's good.
Predominantly, it's audio. Really, that's. The beauty of just being able to turn something on like a radio and still go about your business or drive a car and listen to something is it's always going to be popular, popular medium. So anyway, Craig, well, before we go, to let everyone know where they can find your book and more about you.
Well, Honest Creativity, I think you can find it wherever books are sold, whether that's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or hopefully your local independent bookseller. Ask them to order it for you if it's not in, and support those local booksellers. Love folks who do that. Yes. And you can find more about me. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, all of those usual places, or my own website, CraigDetweiler.com. So thank you, Dave. Honored to be here.
Thank you very much. Once again, thanks for coming and sharing your book and everything you do on the Dave Palmer Show.
Cheers.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.